Hello, everyone. How are you this morning still? Yes? This morning. I appreciate you all being here today. Welcome to the Innovative Arts Interaction Panel. Our panelists today are Wesley Kirk, in the middle here, owner of Vision and Verve and Support Fort Worth Art, and a point of personal privilege, also a board member for Community Design Fort Worth, which is the nonprofit that I work for. Taylor Willis is executive director of the Welman project, who got a shout out in the introduction this morning, so most of you are familiar with her, and Duffer, the artistic director of Amphibian Stage. And their full bios are in your QR code accessible link this morning, and I encourage you to go and check those out because they're fantastic people, but we don't want to spend a whole lot of time reading the bios this morning. My name is Zadeh. I'm the executive director of Community Design Fort Worth, as well as your moderator for this section. As I said, the full bios are available for you to go look at with QR codes, but let's get started by creating some context for the work that we're doing and find out some new ways to engage with the arts community, because that's what these folks are doing. So I'm going to start first with Wesley. Please tell us about Together and We Make Art Happen and Eureka. And I think the reason I was asked to moderate this panel is because I have close ties to all these people on the things that they're going to talk about today. And as the moderator, I will try to keep my comments to myself and allow them to shine.
Perfect. Well, so I'm sorry, this is going to be a long answer. But Together We Make Art Happen was a show that I helped put on at the Fort Worth Community Arts Center last March. And I got asked to be a part of it by Robert Long, who was the curator there. And the idea behind it was an open call. Literally anyone could drop off any work of art during the first 3 days of the show, and it would just go immediately up on the wall, because it was kind of a successor to several art shows that I've done before with a similar vein, because when so born and raised in Fort Worth, but when I moved back to Fort Worth after going to school, I realized that it was so hard to get your foot in the door in the art scene. There just weren't enough opportunities for people to get their first chance to put their work on a wall and show people. And so I co-founded a outsider artist collective called House of Iconoclast, and our first show was called Fuck Your Art Degree, because it seemed like if you didn't have an art degree, you weren't going to get in a gallery. But because we were brand new, the only place that would give us space was the old shipping and receiving bar. But because we'd never done anything before, they wouldn't give us the whole bar, just the hallways. And so for that first show, we had the works of 300 artists and 750 people crammed into those hallways to see the art. And from that show, I saw so many artists have amazing careers in Fort Worth because that was their first opportunity. And that show was in 2019, and you really don't see many shows like that anymore. Fort Works Art would do a few of them. They did First Come, First Serve, which was the first 100 artists. They got their work in the door, and Together We Make Art Happen was kind of the only other opportunity. And it had been years since someone had had a show like that, and I was there filming as people were bringing their work in, and you could see how much it meant to people. There was one guy who drove all the way from Houston because he could not get his art anywhere seen in Houston. He literally got off work, drove to Fort Worth, submitted his art, and then just drove right back. That's how much it meant to him to finally have an opportunity to put his art in front of people. And the other show that I did last year, it was called Eureka. It was at the pool in near Southside, thanks to Megan. It was an idea that I'd had for years, where there's so many artists with not even artists, just so many people with brilliant ideas for art that they want to create, or just art that they want to see in the world. And I thought there should be a show just of that. I joked that it's an art show without art, just ideas. But obviously with a show like that, you can't make money. There's nothing to sell. It's just ideas. And finding a place for that was a real trick. So I did a version of it at the Community Arts Center one time, but it was still pandemic-y time, so we weren't able to have get everyone together to really collaborate and share ideas with each other and see those come to life. And so when the Pool, which is a privately owned community art space on 8th Avenue, that Megan Henderson runs as part of Near Southside. The goal of that place is to build community. It's to host shows that don't have a place anywhere else. And so when I heard she was looking for ideas for that show, I ran up to her and was like, I have the perfect idea for a show. And she was kind enough to let it happen. And with both Together We Make Art Happen and with Eureka, it's not just about what's on the wall. It's about who's there, who you meet, and also the ideas and topics that are being discussed. So with Together We Make Art Happen, every single weekend I would program panels like this to discuss the impact of opportunities like that. And with Eureka, we had events every single weekend bringing together visual artists, bringing together performing artists. And we had one that was an arts ecosystem brainstorm to figure out how do we build and sustain a thriving arts ecosystem. And I can see a lot of people in this audience who were at that meeting and a lot of the Eureka events. And what's so exciting is that a lot of what was talked about at that brainstorming session is what you're going to see today. In fact, the big announcement later today was spawned at that meeting. And so it's just great to see, like, when you provide people opportunity and when you provide people community and collaboration and connection, the amazing things that can come out of that. Sorry, it's a long answer.
Yeah, I wish we could go into more detail of what happened at Eureka because it was amazing. And people who aren't artistic, like myself, had stations that they could go to write down their ideas and add it to other people's ideas and share with people whether those ideas connected. And it was like, is this idea available for anyone to take and do, or do you want to collaborate with somebody? It was amazing. So,
well, if you don't, I want to expand on that just one little bit. I'm a big believer in there's no such thing as artists being separate from us. Like, we are all inherently artists. You have so many creative ideas in your head, and that's why when people came into Eureka, the cost of admission was you had to create something. So we had little stations where you could play a little song, where you could sculpt something out of Play-Doh, where you could type a poem, where you could draw a little sketch, just to get people to realize, like, no, you are the creative people. You are the people who are going to come up with these brilliant ideas.
yeah, it was fantastic. So Taylor, please tell us about the work of the Welman Project and specifically your new makerspace.
All right. So the Welman Project, our motto is fill a classroom, not a landfill. So through creative reuse of business waste, we provide free supplies and support to teachers so that waste is reduced in our community. Teachers have the support they need, and so that kids are engaged in hands-on learning in the classroom. Kids don't necessarily learn best just staring at a screen. It takes that creative work to really get those lessons in. So we want that to be accessible to all students. We expanded that to a arts and craft supply shop that is open to the community. So anybody can come in and have accessible arts materials. And then we opened a makerspace as well, and that started with educators and nonprofits. Anybody can come in and use those equipment and tools to work on projects for their classrooms and their programs. We do free professional development for teachers in how to implement creative reuse in the classroom. And we have classes and workshops open to the community. So we have Kids Secret Society of the Imaginary after school program, and we have Hot Mess Craft Club and Queer Craft Night that are just casual community building creative times together. And we have skills workshops. If you want to learn woodworking or sewing, you can do that. Inspired by being at Eureka, we heard a lot about the need for a community makerspace. So we went ahead and opened that up to the community now for you can get a day pass or a month pass to be able to come in and use all the equipment we have. It's a small space right now, but we're a part of the Transform 1012 Coalition. And so we are working with that to repurpose the former KKK auditorium on the north side of Fort Worth into a Center for Arts and Community Healing. So end of 2027 is what we're looking at. Dennis is our design architect, so point to Dennis to get that done quickly. And we'll be opening a much larger makerspace there that is on a sliding scale fee, so it's accessible and affordable for everyone to have a creative space to play and dream and build.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah. I just want to add that you would be shocked how affordable it is to use that makerspace and how many tools they have. Like when I first toured it, I was blown away. It's like, man, I'm gonna be here every day building things.
And I think it was mentioned this morning that you can put a box in your garage and put things that you might want to donate, but please reach out to them ahead of time. Don't just show up and drop off your stuff. It's not like Goodwill. It's helpful to them if you have an appointment to drop off the stuff. Jay, we'll turn to you now. Please tell us about SparkFest.
Yes. SparkFest is a 12-day festival that we produce at Amphibian Stage every year in June. We are a theater company, so it is theater-centric, but what's most unique about it is that it has begun to provide access and opportunity for particular cultures and groups within the American landscape nationally that we can give a platform to. And so 3 years ago, we started the mission with reaching out first to the Manasa community, the Middle Eastern, North African, Southeast Asian community, and had an incredible experience. Last year's was AAPI, the Asian American and Pacific Islander community, and this year we'll be celebrating and uplifting the Native and indigenous peoples of Turtle Island and the Hawaiian Islands. And with this specific focus, it has bloomed more than just script development. So it centers around 3 new plays and 3 new playwrights within those communities that we can bring to Fort Worth or might be in Fort Worth in Texas. But now it's just grown. We have like a national acting competition, sort of following the guidelines of the Clyburn. We have storytelling, we have dance events, we have comedians that come in, and so it's just
And a fashion show.
And a fashion show. Yeah, it's just an incredible opportunity for both Fort Worth and for the nation in terms of what we're providing. You can't find it anywhere, and we know this because the artists that come in tell us this, and they're so grateful for the opportunities that we are giving them. We have had success stories. We're generously funded by the TCA, which we are so grateful for because with the thanks of Near South Side Inc., we were able to achieve the cultural arts designation for where we are located, which helped us to fund this. We bring in over 60 to 80 artists during this time, and we've had a great economic impact of just where we are at South Main and Victory, the Soma District, and Near South Side, bringing in, we estimated about $50,000 in economic impact money alone into the area. So it's been an incredible opportunity, and just also have had 2 shows from last year's selections. Keiko Green's play, You're Cordially Invited to End of the World, which was developed through us, is now having its world premiere at South Coast Rep. And also Zoe Kim's Did You Eat premiered at Chuang Theater in Boston last year. So our goal isn't just to, thank you. Our goal isn't just to accomplish something here for Fort Worth, but also to give these artists future legs and future opportunities. And so far we're going strong.
Yeah. Great. I've been to the fashion show part of it. I've done the comedian part of it, and it's incredible to watch comedians from the full spectrum of a lot of experience, to just brand new.
And the dates this year are June 12th through the 22nd.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you haven't done things at Amphibian before, you should definitely check that out. But I think most people in here probably are familiar. These are a lot of really great examples of things that can happen when creative minds like you all and many of the people in this room identify needs and solve problems. And not to bring us down or anything, but I know there are challenges for the creative community in our community. So what do you all see? And whoever wants to go first can start, as the biggest challenges for creatives in our community today?
One of the biggest challenge for any artist is space. Like having enough gallery space to show your work, enough performance space to put on your shows, to put on music. It's something like I constantly see people running into the problem of. And now that the Community Arts Center has closed, until we can redevelop it, we're just going to keep seeing artists scramble trying to find new places to go into. And that's why it's been exciting to see events like Lost in Sound, where helping business owners realize like art doesn't exist somewhere separate from here. Like you can incorporate art into every single space. You can have a band come in, you can put local art up on the wall. So it helps provide those opportunities, but space has always been an issue.
Anything else?
Our government. But no, I think we work with teachers and artists every day, and so I think they actually share a common biggest challenge, and that's lack of respect for the profession. And that extends from all levels of government to how businesses treat creatives to how we as individuals choose to spend our dollars and invest in local art or not. So I think we all need to be advocating at every level for art being a profession and being something that is integral to our society.
So many. But I think I'll focus on if there are any other producers in the room and those that have the means to make the connections and provide the opportunities. I think we've discovered at Amphibian Stage, and particularly with the focus of SparkFest, that we have a duty not only to provide space, but to go beyond that and provide the kind of support that artists truly need. And traditionally, there's the cliche producer of just no, too expensive, right? But finding ways, whether they be monetary or whether they be just things you don't even think about, where there is true intention to provide a nurturing space and an embracement of hospitality. So we all know that we will thrive in a nurturing environment, right? That goes without saying. And I'm just going to give you a little example, and this is something that I hadn't thought about. This year, we're in the process of putting SparkFest together. When we reach out to those playwrights who are doing those plays, we often sometimes also say, do you have a director already attached to the project? And sometimes they do. You don't get that for those of you that are in this industry. You'll know that that's not a common practice. If I'm going to bring you in to develop your script and another week-long development process. Usually the finances are limited, so local directors will be assigned to the project. So we try to, if it's already had development, if there are already people connected, we try to be able to find the resources to bring them in. But this was an interesting ask. And I never had thought about this before, and I'm always surprised. One of the directors that wants to come in, there's going to be a stipend, but they ask if there was an additional stipend for childcare. A female director who needs to take care of her children so she has access to come in and do this. And to think beyond, right? To think about those basic needs where we can really provide these kinds of resources. And I can't do that this year unless someone wants to donate to that, right? And come find me. I'd be happy to do that. And go back to that director and say, I've located source. Bring your child and work on this play. And it just places those kinds of limitations. And that's just one example of the things that we find. We often think of artists as, I need so much, and they really don't. But they do need some basic things. And as you start to eliminate things, you start to actually eliminate potential people from the pool who could have gotten the art to the best possible place it could have been. So thinking about that in terms of access and hospitality.
Those are all excellent. I don't even really have anything to add to that, except for in the very beginning of my art advocacy, I was always reminded that people are constantly asking artists to do things for free and for exposure. And I think that's a lesson that Fort Worth has started to learn better. We've got people working really hard to make sure that if anybody puts out a request for an artist to do something and there's not a funding attached to it, they immediately are questioned, hopefully in a nice way, not an accusatory, terrible way. But this next question is for Wesley, and it's funny because I've turned to Wesley for technology support, and he tells me I'm not to do that in the future. But this question is, how has technology influenced your engagement with the arts community, and are there specific tools or platforms that you find particularly effective?
That is an odd question for me to answer because I don't like tech.
But you are good at it.
I disagree. But one thing that I think is weird is I think that often we think that tech is or can be the solution to problems that tech is not going to help with. Like one thing I've noticed with art advocacy is, yes, Instagram is a useful platform for getting this information out there, but like the biggest thing that moves art forward is just people power. It's someone having the time to do the research and spread that information, other people sharing that information with people they know, people having the time to put together art shows, to dedicate to answering these solutions. I mean, in fact, a lot of times tech can be equally a hindrance as it can be a help. So like in art advocacy, yeah, you can use Action Network to make it very easy for people to all send a letter out to their elected officials advocating for art, but it's equally easy for those elected officials to just create a spam filter for that. So you taking the time to individually call your representatives, that's going to get further than any tech that will help that make that process easier. And also, the flexibility of doing things in person helps so much more. Like with Eureka, one thing that was so important to me is that gathering in the space with people was an essential part of that. That's why when I did the trial run at Community Arts Center, it just wasn't the same, because having it in person and it being so flexible. I had so many different kinds of stationery where you could write down your ideas in any way, which like helped reflect the idea. Perfect funny example is my wife wrote an idea for a play called Goblin Show, and she did it in a way that it looked like a goblin wrote it, and then just put it on the wall. It's like I'm working on making a online equivalent of Eureka where it's more accessible to more people, but I'm having trouble finding a way where it's as flexible to reflect people's ideas and how they want it presented and how they want to share it, but and also making sure that yeah, they put that up there, but it's not as much a guarantee that other people are going to see it, because online you don't feel as obligated to respond as when there's a person in front of you sharing their idea, or like you can segue into different conversations much easier in person than you can online or with any kind of technology. There's just really nothing that beats seeing art in person, being a part of art in person, and just people power. That's the biggest thing that moves it forward.
Yeah, I think relying on technology, I don't think is the answer, but definitely using it as a tool, similar to kind of the things that were said this morning in the AI discussion. So Jay, what methods do you use to attract a diverse audience to your programs or events? And is technology one of them?
It is, but again, I'm of my entire staff, I'm the most technologically illiterate. Again, I go back to the idea of intention. One of the things that we know specifically that we try to do again with SparkFest is when we've reached out to these communities, we seek and desire consultation. And making sure that everything is thought through and that will help to attract those audiences. So if I'm speaking from my perspective, I'm probably not going to reach a community I'm trying to reach in particular. So finding those connectors. So for this year, we already have a consultant who is working with us and has informed us that, with certain events within the Native American population, particularly within storytelling and within theater, the cleansing of the space is a very important ceremony to start with. Right? And I would have hated to have gotten to the first day of Spark Fest and just jumped in like we normally would have. And so being thoughtful and intentional and making those connections who inherently bring a group of people with them and a built-in audience. So understanding the power of that networking and understanding specifically to whom you're trying to reach out to for those goals and reasons. So it has been wonderful because it also then draws great connections for the organization itself. But we do find that it does increase attendance. And I think we had from 2 years ago to last year's AAPI, we trial by error. We learn every year certain things, and then I think we were able to increase between the 2 years last year up to 10% in attendance and new attendees coming in. So I think just understanding that it takes work, it takes thoughtfulness, and it takes intention. Where the technology comes in are the tools, right? The data tools that help us track that and find that. And our marketing director he is a tech wizard and does many, many things, Evan Michael Woods, but he mines that data and helps us to find those either target audiences or use that data in order to find new funding sources.
And people, excuse me, and the people you missed. Like, it's really important to see who showed up and then who you were trying to reach, maybe that didn't end up there, and figure out a new way to connect with
And
those
I'll
folks.
say post-show surveys or post-event surveys are so important. If you're an organization collecting that data, because it can be used, you have to use it for grant writing, you have to use it for all of those things, but it also really does provide invaluable experience and valuable insight for the organization.
Fantastic. So Taylor, this is a question about the sustainability of your initiatives, which is funny because what you do helps the sustainability of the planet. So what strategies do you employ to ensure the sustainability of the work that you're doing?
Technology. No, we have a really great built-in one, and it's we reuse and repurpose materials. So all the materials for our workshops are things that we can find readily available, that we're not purchasing new. And we extend that to our business operations. Our tax forms get printed on the backside of an old worksheet, and we have business card stamps that we use, and our packaging for the things we sell in the shop is old to-go containers, very well washed. And we use rags instead of buying paper towels. So that saves us a lot of supply costs that then can go to paying our wonderful staff. I think it's hard to get past that hurdle of, like, people are going to judge me. They're going to think I'm cheap. They're going to look down on things if they're not new and pristine. But artists are cool. The people in this room are cool. So if we can kind of collectively decide, like, we don't need those shiny brochures. We don't need those pristine displays. We don't need water bottles at our event. Everybody can bring their own water. And thank you, Anne. Then we can make reuse and repurposing cool. And that saves us a lot of money and also saves the planet.
Well, since Anne's really hoping for a technology answer, do you want to talk about the shopping cart when people shop at Welman?
Sure. So we have a grocery store checkout app that we repurposed to our warehouse shoppers. So teachers and nonprofit staff come in and scan barcodes so that we can see how much we're giving away. And so we use technology a lot.
I'm not not stuck on the
Anna's
technology.
I know, but-
Anna's obsessed with technology.
You ask very non-technical people a technology question. But it is
Sorry.
cool when you go and shop in Welman Project because like you do see so many weird, cool things, and as you're like adding it to your cart, you're realizing like, oh, I just saved $300 or whatever. And then that money or that information gets to be used when they write grants. They get to say like, we saved this much value from being thrown in the landfill.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm a big tree hugger, so everybody knows that about me. Wesley, back to you. What trends do you see shaping the future of arts engagement, and how are you preparing for them? I think you've touched on this a little bit with the work you've done already, but if anything else to add.
Yeah, I think the trend I'm seeing is I mean, it's happening right now in this room on this day, is that we're all getting on the same page about what the future of art in Fort Worth looks like. I think when things go well, it gets very easy to feel comfortable and just nothing changes. And then when things start going bad, it causes all of us to come together and realize we need to work together to fix this. One thing that was really interesting was a couple weeks ago, the director and deputy director from Texans for the Arts were visiting in Fort Worth, and I gave them a quick tour showing them Amphibian and other theaters in town and near Southside. And one thing that they said was how amazed they are in Fort Worth, where everyone is so collaborative and like very happy to work with each other and figure out how can we help each other. In other cities that they visit in Texas, you don't see a lot of that. A lot of it turns into everyone's, dog eat dog, fending for themselves. They're all fighting over the same scraps of funding. And I think with what's been happening with Arts Fort Worth and just the state of the world is causing all of us to realize that we all play a part in how we make the city what we want it to be. And we can all work together to realize what is it we want? What does a thriving, vibrant arts ecosystem in Fort Worth look like? How do we convey that to people? What do we want to see out of it? And how do we not only build that, but sustain it so that we don't have this problem again, so that everything is well-funded, well-supported. There are spaces that meet every need. There's opportunity for everyone. And I think it's very exciting to see the momentum that's been gained over the past few years towards that vision.
Yeah, I think what I've seen over and over, and not just in the arts in Fort Worth, is that when there's somebody or a group of people that are passionate about something, it's carried along pretty well. And then when those people move on to something else, sometimes it just kind of peters out. So if you don't set up a system that gets passed on to the next group of people that can be passionate and carry it on, that it sometimes just ebbs and flows and goes away. So I think setting up these systems is really, really important.
I just realized I forgot to answer the second part of that. Okay. How I'm preparing for that is I am looking for getting a digital version of Eureka so that we can all keep adding all our ideas for art that we want to make, but also like what resources we can offer to help make those come to life. You're going to hear more about that later today. But also one thing that I'm starting to realize is that we need the Community Arts Center to be redeveloped to the building that we all deserve, and we need it to happen quickly. And we're making good progress with City Council starting to recognize that, but we're not making enough progress fast enough on action. And so one thing that I'm going to work towards that is I'm just going to do the city's job for them. I'm going to work with the community to build out a report for these are the needs, wants, and nice to haves for this building so that we don't run into the same problem that we did before where they ask the developers, what do you want to build? And they just say a hotel. And we're like, no, that's not what we need. So I'm looking forward to working with all of you to figure out how exactly do we envision this specific building and how do we work to make that happen and make it self-sustaining and make it sure that it's a place of opportunity.
I was given a 5-minute warning a couple of minutes ago, but the final thing that I have for each of you is what advice would you give to emerging artists or organizations that are looking to engage more in being effective with their communities, which you just touched on, but if there's anything else that you all want to add to that.
Yeah, I would just say take risks and be bold. Go forth and carry this torch. I think I'm preaching to the choir here, but it is fundamental to our health, to our mental health. I mean, all of these three things here, how powerful and impactful and enriching the arts are. So my challenge is have those individual conversations because like you, I think it's where it starts. I think it's where we change people's minds, invite people to things. And we know from a lot of data how impactful high schoolers who study the arts, how it impacts their future adult life. And we probably are all living testaments of that. So why not just keep spreading that gospel?
My introvert heart hates this answer, but get out in the community. Be the arts patron that you want to see in the world. Get out there and collaborate. I think that is so huge here. Before resources can be scarce, so before you start a whole new thing, like figure out who's already doing those things in this community, so that you can add your people power to that, and we can build great things together.
Absolutely. Or glom onto an extrovert and let them do all the talking for you.
That works.
And I just want to say, could we take a moment where look around in this room, look at who's in here right now. These are the people that care about this issue. There's no cavalry coming to save the day. You are the people that are going to make the biggest change in Fort Worth. There's something that each and every one of you can do as an artist, as an advocate, as a supporter, to build the Fort Worth art scene that you want to see, and it's going to start in this room on this day.
Yep. Well, I don't really have anything else to add to all that. That is fantastic. Wrap it up. No questions. These people are out in the community for you to contact and get in touch with if you have additional questions, but we've been given the wrap up, so we don't have time for questions here today. But thank you all so much for being a part of this panel today.